We need a listener needs advice, Chaz.
Great. Guess who's going to give it?
You.
Us. Us.
Uh, am I a longboarder? Hey,
Oh,
David, I have a question that I want to direct at you and Chaz. It's a simple question. Am I a longboarder? I learned how to surf at the age of 13 in the early 2000s at the Huntington Beach Pier. I'm sure you can picture the scene. Longboard shorts, loud graphic tees, potato chip shortboards. My quiver consisted of just two thrusters, a squash tail and a rounded pin. I never considered riding anything else. Fast forward to college in San Diego around 2006 to 2010, my regular spots became Sunset Cliffs, OB, Wind and Sea. My potato chip surfboards weren't going to cut it. I got my first fish at Mitch's in 2007, and I never looked back. Since then, my boards have always been modeled around the idea of catching as many waves as possible and going as fast as I can. With maturity, though, I've accepted the reality that I'm never going to surf like my heroes, Andy, Sonny, Kelly, Bruce, but my boards still never breached the 6 foot mark until 2012 to 2016 era. A friend of mine was moving inland and selling a few of his boards, one being a 9.6 classic Hobie log. I'd never longboarded before that point, but without much thought, I figured why not? The thing mostly sat in my garage for the first couple of years, only taking it out when it was brutally flat until 2008, when I was forced to surf Old Man's for a friend's birthday, and a log was the only reasonable choice. My life has not been the same since. I had a blast. Since that day, I'm actually looking for waves to longboard. While years ago I would only take the log out on very desperate days, now I'm considering it in my everyday rotation. Truthfully, I probably still ride a shorter board 80% of the time, but longboarding went from 0% to 20% in a short period and is still trending upward. Now, jump to last weekend. I entered the local club contest in the longboard division. I got smoked having no business actually competing on a longboard, but I realized longboarding is where my actual interest lies now. The WSL shortboard division has completely lost my interest. I used to be the kind of person that would never miss a heat. Now I watch maybe one or two heats per contest, maybe. And I couldn't care less about who's qualifying this year. But what I did actually enjoy watching was the Mexi Log Fest, the El Salvador Longboard Comp, and the finals day for longboarding in Malibu. What has happened to me? I'm trying to be optimistic and just think that I'm not actually that good at longboarding. I'm just tapping into a 13-year-old self, just stoked, excited to have a new feeling under my foot, doing everything that I can to get better. However, the pessimist in me thinks that maybe I've just entered the old man phase and I'm actually giving up on my original goal to surf like Bruce and Andy. Let me know what you guys think about this. I feel like I'm at a crossroads and I need your advice. Should I go heavy down this road, get a second log, maybe a proper nose rider, or should I have a long look in the mirror and remind myself to stay in my lane and that I'm always going to be a lifelong lower intermediate shortboarder? Work, Nathan R.
Nathan R., guess what? I have advice for you. David Lee, this is a great quandary that not with longboarding, but with my personal struggle is mid-lengthening.
Yep.
Uh, and so I understand Nathan R's struggle. And here's what I've concluded. Uh, we brand ourselves as this or that in surfing. In reality, we are surfers. Now, it could be debated that longboarding is not surfing. I would allow for that argument to be made, that that is no form of surfing, because I will definitely say that supping is not surfing, right? That is
Yep.
not surfing. If you ride a sup, you are not surfing. You are supping. That is a wave riding thing, but you are doing what people in outrigger canoes do and other things that is also not surfing. Riding a wave is not surfing. Now, I would be open to the debate that longboarding is also not surfing, except let's not go there. I think we have to include it because historically it was surfing. It was, in fact, the only surfing. Okay, now that that's out of the way, so then we brand ourselves in surfing by what we ride. I'm going to say, in a very Zen-like way here, David Lee, we are always in flux, in transition, kind of back and forth across boards. I don't personally longboard, have no interest in it, don't want to get one, hate it. I'm also not good at longboarding. When I take off on a longboard, all I do is like kind of a turn and go straight. I can't cross step. I can't do what you do on a longboard. If Nathan R can do that stuff, like if he's cross stepping up to the nose and hanging five and then cross stepping back and doing that drop knee, blah blah turn and whatnot, uh, then I'm going to say yes. Right now, Nathan R, you are a longboarder. But to freeze there and say, no, okay, this is just, I'm accepting it. This is what I am. So I'm not going to shortboard. That's the hard, you do have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I got to get back to, I got to pull that fish out, or I got to pull a shortboard out again. I was surfing 3 days ago, out on my high performance CI Pro, phenomenal board. But also the CI Pro is not user friendly. That's what makes it good, right? The learning curve on it. So I had one wave that might have been, I mean, well below average, but I could have, I surfed in air quotes that wave. I blew the takeoff on the other two, and it was frustrating. But I felt okay. I'm as frustrated as I am. I'm doing something. The other day, yesterday or 2 days ago, I took the mid out. I was stinking Jerry Lopez, regular foot Jerry Lopez, knifing. I knifed into like, felt to me like it was a good 2.5 feet overhead, but likely it was at my nipple. But just knifed the takeoff, a nice little, like I was ripping my mid, ripping in air quotes. Felt so good. But I think if I pause there and say, nope, okay, I'm only riding my mid because I surf it better, then I surf it better. It's 610, it's got a lot of volume, blah, 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 blah. But no, my duty still is to fight against that dying light and take out that CI Pro and try to rip or try to surf, right?
Yeah.
That's our duty, is not to get stuck somewhere, but to stay in motion along the spectrum.
Yeah. I agree with you. The answer to the question, am I a longboarder? The answer is no.
Yeah. You're not a
Forget
longboarder.
about those labels. The fact that you were raised in Huntington Beach in the way that you described it means that you were born, or you came in with that parameter in your brain, and like you had these categories, but the reality is you never should have. And so you're just a surfer, as Chaz said, and you have different tools for different days of the week. And one of those tools is a longboard. And at Old Man's, that's the right tool. And it is super fun because there's not a lot that can go wrong. Like
Low stakes, man.
it's low stakes and it's super fun.
And like
if
you don't even have to worry about people dropping. You don't have to worry about getting your waves. Like you can happily longboard alongside 5 others, which is part of the
100,
lame part of it.
it's easy to be decent at. It's not easy to be great at, but it's easy to be decent at. So yeah, with shortboards, your session in your day can be ruined if you are cooking it, because you're not going to get the waves that you want, because it's super competitive to get waves on a shortboard. There's people vying for a very small kind of takeoff zone. And then if you're cooking it, you're also not going to complete a ride. So even if you get to your feet, maybe do one turn, you're not going to do the 3 turns to complete the ride. And so it built into all of that is an anxiety that comes with the expectation, and then also the depression of not meeting the expectation. Longboarding, you complete 90% plus of all of your rides, and you get almost any wave you want. And in order, the 10% that you don't complete, you have to be kooking it pretty freaking hard.
I mean, you have to be a kook. To kook longboarding, you actually have to be a kook.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty freaking fun. And you get a lot of waves, and you do get to go really fast, and you feel that glide that is ultimately what's fun when you're riding on the back of a shopping cart at Target, back to your car. So I watched yesterday, I pulled up Instagram, and Cassie Amador had posted this clip, and it was, as all of her clips are, it's like positive vibes and fun. And I guess she's on a retreat right now. And so it's a group of girls, and they're longboarding some easy wave, some easy right point break. And the girls like took off. It was like a party wave. And some of them are laying down. One of them, I think, is doing the cockroach pose. Somebody's on their knees, and they're all just like, just swooping, having a fun time. And I was like, man, that looks so fun. And then I'm like, man, if I go on a surf trip, it's like timed for a swell. or for a season where there is swell, and then there's this heart thumping anxiety when you wake up in the morning, like what are the waves, is the swell filling in, and then you're looking at it and you're all hyped up and you're getting freaked out off coffee, and then you're like, which board do I ride, and is it the right board, and which fins, and all of that anxiety. And then I thought about her on her trip where it's like, no, the waves are going to be knee high and we're logging, so you just, it's, man, that sounds really nice, actually. That sounds fun. Roll out of bed, no anxiety. You know what we're going to do today? We're going to have fun all day, every day. And the
Except,
water's warm and we're all partying on a wave.
except, are we toddlers, David Lee
I know.
Scales?
I know.
But I mean, this is the thing. And Cassia Meter, is it Meador?
Who
Meador.
knows? I get YMA wrong.
Cassia Meter. Uh, she's having a toddler's amount of fun, and that's great. Like, I'm happy for you and your toddler friends to go have baby fun, to look at different colors and be like, colors, to taste a little sugar and say, sugar, yum. That's what longboarding is, essentially. Longboarding is dummy fun, right? It really is. I want to have sophisticated fun, David Lee Scales. I want a night at the ballet, or I want to eat a fine foie gras and chase it with a PT whiskey, even though I hate PT whiskeys, but I feel that's probably
Sauterne is the appropriate pairing there.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Thank you. That I think is what we're aiming for. And if we give them up on that, if we say, I want to just go get Happy Meal McDonald's every day, that's what the longboarder essentially has decided to do. The person who's committed to the longboard life, where I think with variation though, and even if, say, you go to the orchestra and you don't understand, it sounds like noise to you and you have an awful time, you were trying to do something that was bigger and better than making mud castles.
See, you're putting it in really stark terms. Back to like, you're entirely right or you're entirely wrong. I'm claiming different tools for different days of the week.
That's true. But
you do want the fancy night out, having the foie gras, going to the ballet.
You also do want McDonald's.
The next day you want McDonald's and the Housewives on TV or whatever.
I hear that. I hear that. I'm just saying that, like, if you commit though, if you're like, I'm only longboarding, then
that's
you
where
have
the problem is.
Then you made a problem. Then you have stunted yourself into stupidity.
Yeah. So
Jewel Tutor, I'm looking at you.
Well, there is a sophisticated version of that as well. McDonald's is the cockroach stance on the longboard, laying on your back and just kicking your legs. But there's a version of a hamburger that is sophisticated where you are now nose riding, trimming through the section and nose riding. That really, I mean, that tickles all the same sensory things that you're talking about that maybe a big top turn does, on a shortboard.
Could be, yes. And I think, yeah, like if you are really committed to the longboard life, but even I would have to think that Devin Howard himself, world champion longboarder. Did Devin ever win a championship?
No.
Did he ever win an event even?
I'm sure he won events. I mean, for the longest time that I've known Devin, he's not competed, but I'm sure in his youth he did and win.
Yeah, event winning longboard Devin Howard.
Art winning general surfer Devin Howard.
Surfs mid lengths, and I'm sure Dev surfs, gets on a fish, and I'm sure at some point, you don't think Dev has ever snuck out on a CI Pro?
No.
You don't think so? In his whole life?
I mean, maybe a fish back in the day.
But you don't think Devin Howard has ever ridden a high performance shortboard?
Yeah, maybe one time he's tried it. It's been decades since he abandoned that. Yeah.
We're gonna have to get Dev to weigh in here, but
I know, I'm curious too, though.
I bet Dev sneakily, when Dev is mostly, I would imagine, looking for waves that, are longboardable or mid-lengthable or whatever. And I mean, what you could almost argue Rincon. What's the best board for Rincon?
I would argue a fish.
Yeah. I mean, that argument. And so Devin is probably thinking, I don't want to blow, Devin Howard is not surfing D Street, where the only tool really is a shortboard there. If you got anything else, you're being silly.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to get this information from Devin, though. I think everybody would love to hear this.
Yeah.
And I think that he could ride any of those things. yeah, I just think you're right. Maybe he's not surfing like super high performance shortboard waves as
Yeah,
is
that's not the
normal.
waves he's looking to surf.
Yeah, exactly. This kind of very much related question came in right after the boardroom show from a listener who I actually met at the boardroom show.
Hello there. This is Ren Volpe from Oceanside again. I'm calling about, this could be Cook or Curran, I guess. It's regarding this article that came out on Inertia, I believe it's today, saying that surfers over 40 should all be riding boards at least in the mid 6-foot range, since apparently we don't have the fitness or no longer the strength or ability, and blah, blah, blah. There are always exceptions to the rule. And even in the article, the Michael Areno, who just won the Shape Off at the board show, is actually being quoted in the article many times talking about it. So since I'm late 30s, I assume you guys are probably like in that age range, and I'm approaching it fast. Would love to hear about those statements, and also like, what do you guys usually ride? Because you don't talk too much about that. All right, that's it from me from Oceanside. Cheers.
Well, we did just talk about what we ride, but this article was, like he said, published on the Inertia, and it was actually written by none other than Sam George. The
I
article
can't
was
believe I didn't
entitled
Sam this thing. When did it come out? Gen C just sent it to me, to be fair. I can't believe I didn't see this.
2 weeks ago. It came out. The article is entitled, quote, "Over 40, your shortboard is too short,"
So
from Sam George.
anything that comes from Sam George is asinine to begin with. So you could already write it off straight out of the gate. 100%.
Also with him, certainly, and with the Inertia in general, is this conversation 8 years old?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
mean,
this is so far behind trend.
It's so dumb, and like to base it off length too. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it is. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's an 8 year ago conversation to think my board is based. The only statistic I look at is how long it is.
Exactly.
Is a six. Are you writing a 6'3" or a 5'11", man?
Well, when the Inertia published or promoted the article on Instagram, Chris Cote commented, quote, "My boards are shorter and better than they've ever been. And I'm 47 and I'm also surfing than I ever have been," end
Yeah.
quote. And I
Yeah.
think that that's related to what you're saying is maybe they are shorter, but they're more volume.
Sure. And or they're not. And Chris Cote has, gone on a fitness program and is, working out more. Like, who knows? There's way too many variables to make. I mean, Sam George, again, he's without Eric Logan anymore. We've lost Eric Rip as surfing's great clown. And I'm so glad that Sam George has found the Inertia and taken the mantle of surfing's number one silly goose. Like, totally. With Logan, I always got the feeling that Eric Logan was semi self-aware that he was being just a dumb shit and couldn't help it, but also kind of knew it. Like Sam George and his Buddha-like aura, where Sam George thinks that Sam George is the preeminent ... right? And I've heard this from many people also who spend time with Sam George, who's like, yes, Sam George, that veneer is really truly what he thinks about himself. He thinks he is the big kahuna,
Well,
which is hilarious.
He's taking cues from last week's show, which is fake it till you make it.
Yeah, fake it till you and make it till you make it.
He believes he is the big kahuna, and therefore he is.
He is the big kahuna. But in any case, what a dumb, I mean, it's just dumb. It's dumb. And to our wonderful caller's point, like, it depends on how, sure, like getting older, there is physical decline, I guess. But it's not like overnight. And I think it's more injury based, probably, is what hinders more. As the older you are, the more lifetime you've had to get injured. And it's those kind of nagging injuries, I think, that really slow you down a bit. But then you just choose, it hasn't, yeah. I mean, Sam George is so asinine, it's hard to even discuss seriously.
I did think about it when this call came in about what am I riding? And the reality is it's almost all under 6 feet.
Yeah.
And I'm 42 now. but I'm not as fit as I once was. My reaction time is not as sharp as it once was because I don't surf as often as I once did. But they're still under 6 feet. I haven't completely given up and am just riding a log just to have fun. I'm still riding shorter boards that have volume, but they're still quote performance boards.
And I think so much of it also though, continue. Sorry to cut you off.
Well, there's room for the mid-length for me that I think fills the gap between the shorter alternative performance boards and the longboard. Longboard goes straight, shortboards maneuver. The mid-length gives you kind of the comfort that a longboard gives you. You know, there's a lot more room for error. If you, let's say you haven't been surfing for a month, you could take out a mid-length and you're like slow to your feet. It's forgiving. It's fine. It tracks, so it goes fast, but it also has enough maneuverability to where you're not going to go vert with it, but you can still bank off a lip with it. You could still redirect it on a cutback. You could bank off the whitewash, stuff like that. So it's kind of the perfect in between.
And I think so much of it depends on where you're surfing too, right? Again, like if you're surfing I think when you're younger, maybe you could surf a burger, or when you're surfing a bunch and younger, you could surf like a burger on a shortboard and be okay. I think that gets harder, especially with the crowds of today. Yeah. Like it's hard to compete for waves on a berg. So if you're surfing a berg, you know, volume up, man. That will help you. Like that's what those waves demand. But if you're on some punchy, you know, shore break, you don't need volume. Like you're all fine and good. Sam George.
So volume up would be the answer to the question from Renz or the response to Sam George's article, but not necessarily length up or height up.
Definitely. But, and also don't volume up if you're surfing some real, you know, peaky beach breaky kind of thing. You don't need like some wave that's going to chuck you in. Like you got to get your reaction up. But if you still want to surf that wave, you don't need anything. You need exactly a high performance shortboard, a CI Pro.
The funny thing is about saying this article is 8 years past its when it should have been published. When we were younger, or even, you know, pre-COVID, surfers who were getting into surfing were riding potato chip thrusters, as our original longboard question came in with, you know. So Sam's advice would have been good to them back then, which is, man, you got in on the wrong board, so you need to scale up. But everybody who's come into surfing the last 5 years started on a soft top. Yeah. And so they're riding boards that have the length and the volume. And the advice shouldn't be to level up. They're already there. If Sam was actually paying attention the last 5 years, they're already there.
Especially the inertia reader.
Exactly. Yeah. So if anything.
And the person who's going to take Sam George seriously.
Right. Yeah, exactly.